Hey guys, this is an update on the high-speed camera project. It's been quite a while since my last update, but I've also made a huge amount of progress. I actually have the camera in its case and pretty much operational, at least with very basic software. For those of you who don't remember this, this is a 1280 by 1024 500 frame per second high-speed camera based on the ON Semiconductor Lupa 1300 image sensor. Right now I've got just a simple C-mount lens on this. You can put pretty much any lens you want, just with different adapters. This one just goes to it's actually CS mount with an adapter ring. It's a bit too small for this sensor, so I've got the resolution at around 800 by 600. It gives around 1,200 frames per second to that resolution, and sensitivity is actually surprisingly good. This is just average room fluorescent lighting, and it's you can do completely acceptable videos under this. Yeah, as I said, it's working with very basic functionality. We can make recordings. We can just drop it a tape, stop. We can play it back. Simple touchscreen controls. We've got a jog wheel to go through video. We can play back just forward and backwards at various speeds. Has basic saving functionality. Right now you can basically set a mark in, mark out point. You can save it to SD card, to USB devices. This also has SATA. Yeah, very basic functionality. Change the file name, bit rate, save frame rate, and then it just saves it out to H.264 on the card. The OS on this is Linux. It's just the distro provided by TI for their system on chip, DM8148 that I'm using. The GUI is built on top of Qt embedded, and it also runs the TI GStreamer and OpenMax for the video display. That's basically the Linux equivalent of video for Windows. So I guess you're all dying to see what's inside this, so I'll turn it off and let's take it apart. It takes a few seconds for it to shut down. I had to add the fan onto this because the plastic, the case is 3D printed plastic, and that doesn't conduct heat away from the parts inside fast enough. Ideally, this will just have either ideally no fan, although I suspect it dissipates about 12 watts, so that would get pretty hot without a fan. So I think a fan's going to be needed, but hopefully it can be one on basically blowing air through fins on the outside. Okay, I believe all of the screws are out now, so you just have to wiggle it a bit to get the board-to-board connectors apart. There we go, and then disconnect the battery. I don't like how I had to have the battery go across from one side to the other, but I didn't have enough pins on these board-to-board connectors. This is pretty much a two-board solution plus the sensor board on this side. On the LCD side, we have the TI DM8148 system on chip, its own gigabyte of RAM. There's a Ethernet PHY chip there, and pretty much everything else is just power supplies along the top, battery charger around here, and a bunch of analog I/O stuff for trigger and analog capture. On the other board, it's basically just image acquisition. It has, if I bring the other board in, it has a big lattice ECP395 FPGA that just takes data in from the image sensor over some FFC cables and dumps it into DDR3 RAM. Right now I've only got 1 gigabyte in this particular board. I had some trouble with the memory controller with 2 chip selects. There's some sort of bug. I think it might be a bug in the lattice controller, but I have to set up some probing to look at the address and command lines to see what's actually going on. On the other side of this board, there's just a few more power supply things, connectors that go off the LCD. There's one SD card here that has the boot memory for the main CPU. and there's another one for data storage. And unfortunately, because of the drawing showed the pin numbers with viewed from the bottom, I mirrored them, so I had to do this really annoying bodge job on all the boards to correct for the mirrored pinout. But it does work, and that's out of the way. There's not a huge amount in the back of this. Here's another 3D printed case. It's just a circular sensor board that goes on here, and then a 4-cell 18650 pack, 7.2 volts, 5.2 amp hour to power the camera that goes in here. Here's a view of the image sensor, which is about 24 millimeters diagonal. It's about 1 millimeter bigger than a Micro Four Thirds size. This lens mount is actually CNC machined out of wood, because I made this during the Christmas break and there were no metal shops open at the time, and I really wanted to, I just gotten the software to the point where it was running and I wanted to actually run the camera, so I just grabbed a block of wood and CNC'd an adapter with a, what is this, I think a 1" by 32 thread for the C-mount lens, or CS mount lens. Okay, let's put this back together and take a few sample videos. I'm definitely going to put this project on Kickstarter. I've had a few people interested in buying one of these cameras, but they're not quite ready for sale yet, unfortunately. But definitely when I get closer, when I get something more actually ready for sale and debugged, I'll do a Kickstarter for this. Definitely need to work on improving the ergonomics of the case, and probably like to put a better screen, like a screen that has a glass going out around the front. One other thing I'd like to do is investigate replacing the RAM with some sort of solid states non-volatile storage like flash. So I know there's another high-speed camera that was on Kickstarter that was it was a very basic unit, but it stored data straight onto a flash memory rather than RAM. I was thinking of just replacing the RAM in this case with some SSDs and a RAID array, because those are super cheap consumer products, and you can connect them to the FPGA with just a few pins, conceivably. Although there's a big SATA controller that goes behind that, but the concept seems very nice. Then you could have super long record times, like in the minutes or potentially even tens of minutes range, at cost not really much more than the RAM. There we go. Let's see. Screen should turn on. Oops, I forgot to remove the SD card. Right now there's a bug in Linux, in the Linux system. If you have this SD card in, it tries to mount this as the main SD card. And then that, when it boots, it tries to load the operating system off this card, which obviously doesn't have it. So I have to update the driver to fix that. For development on this thing, I have this sort of platform that you mount both boards on. They both go down like this. And there's a board that connects the two together out flat, so you can get in and debug things easily. It also has a video DAC on it, so that you can easily view the video being produced by the FPGA and sent to the DM8148. This has the same lens mount I used in the earlier prototype I showed a few years back, and yeah, obviously the back is cut out so you can get easy access to everything. Let's start off with a classic water drop into water. See if we can get this to drop at the right place. That was a bit off. Let's try again. There we go. Okay, we'll just find where it drops. There it is. Now we can play it back. We'll play back at 30 frames per second. Oh, nice. Oh, it didn't go a third time. We also have the jog wheel, which is really convenient. We can push and turn to go fast. We can just jog it through. Yeah, not many cameras have jog wheels on them. It's always I really like how jog wheels feel. It's really gives you a really nice feel and ability to quickly and precisely move through the video. I always like them on oscilloscopes, and I figured why shouldn't cameras have them too? Saving is really simple. We just have to find our the point we want to mark in. Let's start from a little bit before it comes into frame. Mark in. Let me just go to where we want to end. Let's see. Most of the action is stopped by here, so we'll mark out. Just check our settings. I'm going to save it at a relatively high bit rate. We'll go for 2 bits per pixel. I've specified it as bits per pixel because there's so many different, the frame rate and resolutions are so variable. Specifying a bits per second just doesn't really make sense. On the right, no, we need to put the SD card in. Let me refresh. There it is. I need to work on the naming of these, but it does work. So no file name, that just means it's going to save it with a name based on the date and time. So now we just have to press save. Video display stops, and now it basically plays back the video, and this time instead of going to the screen it goes into the H.264 encoder. In the future I'll use the second video port so you can save while live previewing as well, and some other interesting record modes that might be possible. There we go. Okay, let's try it at a much higher frame rate. We now have it set to 480 by 360, and I've offset the frame down a little bit so we can it gets us a nice position without having to move the camera. So now we can just record. Get that drop pretty, come on. Perfect. And we can play back. Ooh, a bit less splashing than last time. Would have been nice to get some more splashing for this high frame rate. Let's see what the second drop does. No, not quite as interesting. Let's try this from a higher height. Oh, beautiful. Look at that crown. Let's have a look at that crown again at a slower playback rate. Oh, nice. Again, I can't mention enough how much I love the jog wheel, being able to instantly and precisely control the playback. I wish there was such a nice way to do this in the video editor to actually get the live view, proper view of this rather than just recording the screen. But there's no nice way to do fluid, there's a lot of effort to do fluid frame rate changes like this. Hope you found that update on the high-speed camera project interesting. I'll let you guys go with a few more random videos I took during New Year's. Also stay tuned for more videos from this camera when I do a video about the compressed air hand dryer and the oscillation noise it was making.
Countdown's up, ignition starts as the clouds above come falling down and take you off into the sky. The open air, it beckons me to lift up off my weary feet and reach up to the stars so high. Take my hand and something more than this out there. Which galaxy is fairest of all? You'll never fly if you're afraid to fall. Oh, how I've dreamt of searching through the stars. Oh, the wonders of a place far from it all. But can I fly if I'm afraid to fall? Take my hand and fly. Left in a cold world, with no place to call our own. Don't we all search